Hey!
How are you,
Happy
mate?
Tuesday, after Tuesday night, guys. Nathan Forbes, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday Night Mindset, Mindfulness, and Mental Health and Mindfulness. How are you, Nathan?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. In the city.
In the city, about to go to some mantra kind of auric course that I enrolled in last week. So yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm excited. Okay, so first, before we get into that, everyone that doesn't know, I love you, Nathan. And everyone knows how much I love Nathan. But Nathan, tell everybody else that doesn't know how amazing you are about yourself. Give us the Nathan Forbes elevator speech.
Elevator speech. All right. So I've been working in alternative medicine since 2000. I'm a naturopath, work in Camden area, and specialize in mind-body medicine. So yeah, mostly work with people. Obviously, with your body is the key, but working with how emotions and feelings have a massive impact on our physical self. So yeah, that's my focus.
And it's legendary. NET.
NET.
Tell them
Neuro-emotional
about a
technique.
quick. Yes, explain NET real quickly because
Right.
it's the way that I can't lie to Nathan. Okay, that's what I just translated to. Nick is not allowed to lie to Nathan.
Nick can't lie to Nathan.
Yes.
So Nick tries to lie to Nathan. So NET is a technique that was developed by a bodyworker chiropractor who found that there was a repetitive stress that would hold itself in joints and tissues and muscles. And the technique is an emotional release technique, which allows the body to release our old stored emotions. So emotions that we have experienced, but we didn't realize we would have let it all out. So the technique allows us to go through a process to help the body release any residue of an emotional experience, which when I say any emotional experience. So
Yeah.
pretty much from the time that we're conceived till the present, any feeling that hasn't processed efficiently. And it causes a whole range of issues, pain issues, digestive issues, potentially. Really, I shouldn't say causes them. It impacts those parts of our body. So, yeah, that's what I do.
And I've done a lot of this with you, Nathan, and I've been down this road before, and Nathan is, like I said, Nathan, I can't lie to Nathan, so he pulls it and he asks me questions that I don't like to answer. So Dan, you love it now, buddy, but when you see Nathan, he's along those lines that I say with Adam Scully, like you just want to punch him in the face because you can't lie to him, so it's always the truth. Well, I love Nathan, and
it's a consistent love-hate experience.
Exactly. Pretty much, yes, absolutely. And that's true. So yeah, we have and Nathan, you've done obviously work with me and my wife and my little humans, and we've gone down the road before of how of other things, not only just NET and how, how the emotions kind of tie you and act like a wedge inside of you, but other things as well, like Young Living and essential
That's
oils,
right.
and how do they tie into like what you do, and how does that really work?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at anything that causes an imbalance. Really, obviously, I see people that are unwell. So when someone comes and sees me, I'm looking from anything nutritional through to emotional through to environmental. So when I say nutritional, that could be herbal medicine as well. Essential oils for me fall into that kind of line where we use these, beautifully nature crafted substances that support us, and so I'm looking at all that stuff at once, really. Um, yeah, I mean, given the situation that we're all in at the moment, just being able to assess where their deficiency states are at, or if there's deficiencies that are causing how they're feeling. I saw a kid today that crazy deficient, and the stress levels in his little body, and all just based on the fact that certain nutrients aren't available. So, yeah, fun job.
I've talked to you a couple of times, and not so distant future, and I was seriously out of whack a couple of times, and usually I come out of Nathan's with several bottles of things that I should be taking, and I
Eventually take them.
eventually,
Yeah.
not always all at once and what I'm supposed to, but I do, and it works. It's amazing. So like I tell people, like you have to see and talk to Nathan because of what he does is just amazing, and you start to talk to people about people that have worked with you before, and obviously everyone that sings your praises around how amazing you are with what you do, and I love your family and everything that you do, and lovely, and I know Carly's
Thanks,
behind the phone right now, I'm sure. So she's being supportive of this as well.
Of course.
But as it just to go to what we were talking about, like being aware of change, and something that you're looking at this course you're doing some stuff with tonight. What is it? How it's very easy for us in the world that we live in the news driven, media driven, social media driven, world that we live in, to become numb to change sometimes, especially change that's in our body.
Yeah.
What can help you, talk about that a little bit. I'll let you talk, and then I'll ask some questions around it, but go ahead.
Yeah, cool. Look, what I would say is I wouldn't necessarily say we become numb to change. We become numb to the reality that we're in change. When there's constant change, what we don't recognize is our bodies are constantly in that paradigm of moving with what shows up. Right now, all of us are in a response to the clothes we have on. All of us are in response to the air temperature we're in. All of us are in response to whatever we, have eaten for dinner or haven't eaten for dinner yet. And so our body's in this constant state of movement based on what is being presented to it. And so in regards to where we're at the moment, there's this constant change. When you talk about numbness, I think what happens is we become... when I say this to my clients all the time, the number one issue I see is fatigue. When most of us are exhausted or tired, basically because there is so much change. There's so many things we have to process at once, and I'm sure many people, having probably stopped their busy routine before COVID-19, and then COVID-19 comes along, and a lot of people are like, man, I'm loving this. I'm at home. I'm not running the kids or something every night, or I'm not, doing all these extra things that just seem to take up your energy. And so what I see is that people come in and they're fatigued, and what the brain does is, in its fatigue state, is that it actually doesn't have the capacity to do everything it needs to do. So what it will do, it will actually limit what it does. And that's where I would say what we experience then is what feels like is a numbness, when really it's a very innate, primitive survival reflex that the body goes into to reduce our sensitivities, so we're not having to experience so many things at once.
And okay, so I was had to force myself to take some notes there because you hit on so many things. But like you said, and one thing that hit home with me pretty hard because it's happened to me several times, and like you get this kind of draining, dragged out, exhausted feeling, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's a lack of vitamin as well, and especially I was talking to someone yesterday, who is not he doesn't like to have red meat or chicken, so not beef or chicken, and
Yep.
tolerates fish, okay,
Yep.
and
Yep.
not a huge fan of pork. Now these. Just walk us through what your body goes through not having those type of minerals and how that can affect the way your body works through change,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if we just talk about nutrition, good nutrition in general, what we've got to understand is that the body converts these foods that we ingest and uses them as raw materials, building blocks, things that build cells, makes hormones, uh, makes all these things that help us adapt. And so what happens is when our nutrition is poor, we aren't making these adaptive mechanisms or these adaptive substances very efficiently. And the irony is the time in which we need to adapt the most is often when our digestion is the weakest. Often under stress, the digestion, um, what I like to say is it dials down. It's just a normal pattern the body goes through. A lot of people with digestive problems don't understand that. So what happens is you're under stress, the digestive system is designed to be turned down so that blood can be utilized and put in other places. So the nutrition that would normally nourish your stomach, keep that tissue of the stomach healthy and strong, now gets directed out to other things. So this is the pathway. This is what happens to the body all the time under stress. It's constantly moving where it puts nutrition, where it puts blood in. And when I say blood, it's oxygen, nutrition. It's the body's capacity to flush things and take waste out. So when we're not getting good nutrition through, we typically go into a heightened stress response faster. So, and again, I use that term fatigue. When we are undernourished, the body's capacity to turn sugar, carbohydrates, fats, proteins into energy supply, it requires a whole range of B vitamins, a whole range of minerals for that pathway to be on properly. And there's two things that you're going to die from pretty fast. If your blood sugars drop, you're going to die from that pretty fast. And if I reduce the amount of oxygen, cut off your oxygen supply, you're going to die pretty fast. They're the two things the body regulates and has to regulate constantly. Yet they're the two things that will fluctuate under pressure very quickly. So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so when you ask that question, from a general perspective of nutrition, is that we have to think optimal. We live in a culture and a time now where what is implied around good nutrition and how much nutrition you need isn't based on what is optimal nutrition to avoid to maintain wellness, to maintain full health, not part health or the idea of health or what looks like health. An absence of disease doesn't mean you're healthy, and that's just a fact.
Yeah. And we talked about not getting the nutrition that you need, and you said my question around that, your body requires sleep, right? And and that sleep is not getting the nutrition and not get is that can you get this? Would you say, in your professional opinion, this is a question here with my amazingness, not getting the nutrition could be on the same. You get a similar effect by not getting the right amount of sleep.
Yeah. So again, what I said before, when we're not getting enough sleep, the body's going to be working from a more stressed body state, and a stressed body state has a number of parameters that it works in really fast. As soon as the body's stressed, it reduces blood supply to the digestion. So, that's what I said before. So, not getting enough sleep is a known stressor, and so you're going to have a weakened or less, a more inefficient digestion if you aren't getting enough sleep. The interesting thing, though, is that you need energy to sleep, and most of us don't think that. Well, we go, "Oh, I'm so tired. I need to sleep. I'm exhausted." It's like. You're exhausted because not just because of the lack of sleep. A lot of time people are exhausted because they're undernourished. And that's what I would say I see predominantly. And where, I consistently hear people that do not fall asleep properly, wake through the night, or do not wake feeling rested. And they're the things that, there's a whole range of minerals that the body needs to allow the brain to have energy through the night so that it can keep you in a proper sleep state. So it's kind of like asking what's more important. This is the reality with the human body. It's all important and it's all as important. And yeah, you take away one, you're going to affect the other. You take away this one, it's going to affect the next one. It's interlinked. It's interwoven. It's not. They're not dynamics that function independently. And so, valid question. But me personally, I kind of put them on the same page.
Okay. No, that's fair. And you've talked to me in my weight loss journey, for other with other places that I've been and done, and we've talked about weight loss and how you. I'm going to say this wrong, and this is going to come off wrong because I'm not Nathan Forbes, but when you're in a stressed environment and you're putting on weight, that
Yep.
negative energy, that negative is stored in the fat, right? And then when you lose it, it gets kind of released in the same way. Am I saying that right? And can you kind of go through that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So as the body accumulates tissue like fat tissue, it's not just storing fat; it stores whatever lives in fat as well. So if you've got a certain amount of toxin that your body's, I'm sorry for the noise behind me. If you've got a certain amount of toxin that's in your system at the time, and most people, if you're putting on weight, good chances are that you're probably eating some junk or some things that your body doesn't need. And so a lot of these stress hormones and a lot of these chemicals are fat based. So what you can have these fat soluble substances that are actually being stored in fat tissue at the same time as you're building fat. And so it's a bit like you put away clothes that you wore today and then they're a bit smelly. Like you go and store them in the cupboard, well, they're going to be smelly when you pull them back out. So yeah, when the body goes to lose fat, it's going to be losing those byproducts that were present in the fat tissue at the same time. Again, we have to realize the body's a very efficient machine. I'm not going to use the word machine, actually. Let me take that back. It's a very efficient organism, and so it uses everything for more than one purpose. Fat is a storage site. It puts fat soluble, substances, and a lot of these man-made chemicals, unfortunately, are fat soluble. So that means those things will absorb into fat and live in your fat tissue, whilst ever that fat is present. So yeah, people can lose fat and go through a detox process. And obviously everyone's different. It depends on where you're losing your fat from and when you stored the fat and what was going on in your body at the time.
Mm-hmm. And so I have two questions, and I'm very aware of time. But you said vitamin B, and vitamin B, I know how amazing it is and how important it is in your body. But what would you say that people that are living a more active, healthy, active lifestyle, does their bodies, what vitamins do they tend to use more, or vitamins and minerals do they use more that you may see as like, people that are in this lifestyle kind of have to replace more?
Yeah, good question. So interesting enough, I work with some high-end athletes, and what I'll see with them is that there's certain nutrients like vitamin A, vitamin D, that you'll see, vitamin C, and certain minerals like magnesium, manganese, molybdenum. And those things will often be lower in these people. And those minerals are minerals that are super important for higher hormonal functions of the body, higher brain functions, but also regulatory hormones. So these bodies are actually having to use a lot more of that stuff because they're actually doing so much more physically. So vitamin A, those things are really important in regards to connective tissues of the body. So, it really comes back to what kind of exercise and what the person's doing. Some people show up with vitamin C. If someone, it's a good question, but if you probably break people down into about 4 or 5 different categories.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is what you want to do is you want to put more nutrients in than you think you need, because again, when you look at it from a proactive, optimal health perspective, but yeah, B vitamins good mineral balance, good solid, mineral blend, fat soluble vitamins. D is so important right now. Winter time, a lot of people show up with low vitamin D, but that's also the time we need it the most. So it comes back to what's the body having to go through. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it dry? Is it, the dryness really brought up. We had last week was quite dry in the air. I don't know if anyone remembered, but all of a sudden it got really dry. I had all these people come in with skin problems all of a sudden, and it was like I hadn't seen any skin problems all year. So it really will come back to the environment to some degree, how to answer that in a concise way. Other than that, it's a bit general.
Yeah, and you brought up another one, and just things that I've been low in quite often that I find, like you said, manganese and the M's, are something. A lot of the M's and as well as metals, iron, zinc. People tend to be really low in, and that those when you get low in that, other than supplementation,
yeah,
where else can you kind of get those from other than from like me going to Nathan and saying, "Hey Nathan, I'm low in my metals, and you're going to give me something that if I, will tell everyone that if I, Nick, decide to take it without anything else in it, it's going to go down and come back up." So because zinc is disgusting if anyone knows to take zinc anymore.
I think I know what you're asking.
So like where would you get these minerals other than supplementation in your diet?
To me, seeds, nuts, seeds are some of the best places to get those micro minerals, manganese, molybdenum, boron, iodine. These things are really important. Magnesium, anyone can search up and see things that are rich in magnesium, but you really look in those green leafies and high nutrient dense foods. So high nutrient dense foods are typically nuts, seeds. That's where I kind of lean towards personally for me to make sure.
Any in particular that nuts and seeds you'd say would be better?
Variety is always the key, right? So there's nothing that's actually got everything in it all the time. Again, if something's in a natural state, that plant is growing in an environment as well, and that environment can change. So eating a variety of foods and plants and nuts and seeds is a sure way to make sure that you're getting those nutrients from those substances, given that those substances may lack it at different times as well.
And if when you say in their natural state, you're not saying like, roasted with, added salt and this, that, and the other thing that you get like, fancy bags, and that's not where you're going to find them.
Look, some nuts are better roasted. There's no doubt. Like some people's digestion works better. And I listen to where people are at and hear what works for their body. And I know I've had to learn to do that. And you've got to eat foods that your body shows you works for you. So you eat something and it bloats you, or you eat something and you get gas, or you eat something and you don't feel so good. It's learning to eat it in a form that is as close to nature as possible. Because otherwise you're losing, there's not as much nutrition present.
For the people that are in the MacArthur area that are watching, and I'd say probably half to more are, where do you go, being that you're actually probably more than half, probably I'd say 75% of the people that are watching are, but where do you find like the best place to go for that stuff? I'm not plugging anyone here. This is the Nathan Forbes show. Sorry, the Nathan Forbes show, not anyone. But do you use Jally's Whole Foods? Where do you go?
To be honest, I just go anywhere I can get organic, as close to organic as I can. But I'll use those kind of places if they have what I need or want. Woolies has a good supply too of some organic stuff. It's just finding it in its most natural state, chemical free as possible. So it's a good question, but I to be honest, I get it from all over the place. Sometimes not in our area. But anywhere that stocks that kind of thing, the local health food store in Narellan sells some really, lots of good stuff. Jallies, just wherever it is. But look for stuff that's as clean as possible, which is, that's the aim.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Nathan is on a very tight schedule. When you get someone as amazing as this, your schedule is very tight. And I get to slide Nathan right in between a half an hour period tonight I was working of time that he had. So I'm very aware of that. But if you have any other questions that I haven't asked, and you come up to you that you want to ask Nathan, Nathan, I'm going to tag him in the Natural Concepts. Sure. He's tagged in the What's the Post. Go talk to him. His office is in Smeaton Grange on, where was it again?
Waller Crescent.
That's right. I started with a W. I was going to say whale, but I knew that wasn't right. Waller Crescent, naturalconcepts.com.au.
Nature's Concepts.
Nature's Concepts, not Natural Concepts, sorry, Nature's Concepts.
That's all good.
.com.au. I showed it in the post. I was ready the first time. Anyways, Nathan, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, If you have any questions for Nathan, please do it. And Nathan, thank you again.
Steve. Take care,
You're
brother.
the man, buddy.
See ya.
Ciao.